the special guest of honor, Her Excellency the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Distinguished Senator Olorunlemi Tinubu, ably represented by Her Excellency the wife of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Hajiya Nana Kashim Shettima. Please can we have national anthem? Our special guest of honor, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this month it is my honor and privilege to invite the Chief Host, the 18th Chief of Defense Staff, Armed Forces of Nigeria, General C. Musa Oyaka, to formally welcome
Where did you enter from?
Our esteemed guest for this month.
For the conference is building capacity through gender mainstreaming to meet security challenges. This was carefully chosen with a view to embracing holistic realities in the integration of wider gender perspective for the armed forces of Nigeria. The conference is also tailored at fashioning out the right ambience for the armed forces in designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating operational and administrative doctrines that seek to promote and enhance capacity by leveraging gender mainstreaming in combating the myriad of security challenges in our nation. I'm glad to inform this August gathering that Nigeria, and indeed the armed forces of Nigeria in particular, have received encomium from notable international organizations such as the United Nations and the African Union for adopting commendable gender mainstreaming policies in all its military operations conducted within and outside the shores of Nigeria. As available records reveal that the armed forces of Nigeria have been able to attain 37.9% female participation in peacekeeping operations, surpassing the 17% recommended benchmark by the United Nations. This deliberate effort by the military is in line with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, mandating countries to develop own action plans to identify, evaluate, and control efforts to achieve the objectives of women, peace, and security. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 was mooted to ensure women and societal security needs are safeguarded through increased emphasis on prevention, protection, and participation of women in military operations. Consequently, the asymmetric nature of current security challenges bedeviling us as a nation brings to bear the need for the military and other security agencies to adopt a more realistic gender mainstreaming strategy to defend and protect women and children who are the most vulnerable group of persons and victims of the consequences of security challenges. I want to urge all participants and stakeholders to be open-minded in order to engage in constructive discussions that will further improve the existing gender policies and gender mainstreaming in the military. While expressing our sincere thanks to our local and foreign partners for all their support, let me also reiterate that the armed forces of Nigeria under my command will remain focused in championing gender-based doctrinal policies, both in its operational and other engagements. Before I conclude, I wish to once again express our profound gratitude to the First Lady, ably represented by Her Excellency, the wife of the Vice President, the Minister of Defense, distinguished invited guests and participants for honoring our invitation. Finally, I would also like to use this opportunity to thank Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, for his unwavering support and encouragement to the armed forces towards performing its constitutional responsibilities of safeguarding the nation's territorial integrity as well as lives and property of every citizen. On this note, I wish us all blissful deliberations. Thank you once again for honoring our invitation. God bless you all.
The Honorable Pasha
Chief of Defence Staff, General C.G. Musa, OFR, Excellencies, Sirs, ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to stand on existing protocol. As a woman who has worked in defence and security for over 30 years, it's particularly important to me to come today because this is a subject which is very dear to my heart. And as you will see, we are working jointly with CDS on this conference, sharing a priority on the role of women in defence and security. As someone, as I say, who has worked on this subject for the majority of my career, I have seen the importance of women in policy making, in the role of defence, in security, and in the operational front line grow and become steadily more important. We, in the UK and Nigeria, have adopted and domesticated UNSCR 1325. This makes the role of women in peace and security fundamental to the future of our defence and our security. Nigeria has shown its commitment to these important issues in many ways, through us women who work in this field, but also in the protection of survivors of sexual violence, supporting the call to action to ensure the rights and well-being of children born of sexual violence in conflict, and to the Murad Code. For me, inclusive military and security organisations are the key to helping us meet the standards set out in these agreements. But I think it's important too that we understand and pay tribute to the women at the grassroots who are working with their communities and upwards through the system to bring peace and security, reconciliation, and support both the women and the men in their communities. This is an important week for me. 2 days ago, I spoke at the Humanitarian Centre for Dialogue. This was perhaps addressing the opposite end of the spectrum to those gathered here today. But what I saw were women from all backgrounds, all levels of expertise, and many states who were working in their communities to bring dialogue, reconciliation, and peace. So our role together is to use our women in the defence and security environment, but also the women in our local communities to bring success to this shared endeavour. So to me, working with Nigeria, representing the British High Commission and our support operational activities here through the British Military and Advisor Training Team and through Operation Taurus shows our shared commitment to working on this important agenda. We all of us, especially the men in this room, need to address equality where we see it. This is both in the armed forces, the other security forces of Nigeria, and in wider society. We must make sure that gender considerations are fully integrated into policy, into the practices, and into the operational environment. You, in the armed forces, can lead the way. I know, when I personally spoke to General Musa very early in his tenure, how much importance he gives to this agenda. So for all you, please do follow your Chief of Defence Staff. I wish this conference every success. It's a hugely important agenda. I look forward to seeing you working together and to, I'm sure, some outstanding agreements and objectives for the future. Thank you all.
I'm here to deliver a goodwill message on behalf of the UN Women Country Representative to Nigeria and ECOWAS Ms. Beatrice Eyon, who is unavoidably absent. I would like to start by congratulating the Armed Forces of Nigeria for convening this very important conference, and also start by congratulating them once again for taking the giant stride of promoting gender equality and women empowerment in the Armed Forces of Nigeria. As you all know, Nigeria is one of the member states of the UN that domesticated the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which was adopted by the United Nations Security Council on the 31st of October 2000. It took Nigeria 13 years to develop a national action plan, which was in 2013, which took some time, but then it's always better late than never. And after adopting the first national action plan, Nigeria also developed the second national action plan, which was launched in 2017. One of the clarion call was for institutions to adopt this national action plan by developing sectoral action plans that will promote women participation, women representation, and more broadly, gender mainstreaming in their respective institutions. The Nigerian Police Force, of course, was the first to develop the agenda policy in 2010, and of course are about to launch the second one. And I'm happy to say the Armed Forces of Nigeria launched their first gender policy in 2021 with support from UN Women, which is a giant stride. And I would also congratulate the Armed Forces for not just having a gender desk unit, but recently have upgraded that gender desk unit to a directorate. Please, a round of applause for the Armed Forces of Nigeria. That is a practical demonstration of commitment to gender mainstreaming, and we are happy that UN Women, with support from the government of Germany, is supporting the Armed Forces to implement that gender policy. So as I speak now, there are plans to build the capacity of personnel of the Armed Forces, because having a policy is good, but implementation is better. So how do we put mechanism to ensure that this policy is fully implemented at all levels? And how do we also ensure that there is sustainability? So I'm happy to say that UN Women is supporting the Armed Forces to do that. Apart from that, UN Women supported the development of a standard training manual on gender for security sector institutions. And I'm happy to say that we have plans to build the capacity of the different training academies of security institutions to be able to integrate this gender manual into their training curricula. The police force have already approved that this manual should be adopted into their training curricula, and I'm using this platform to call on the Armed Forces to equally have this manual integrated into their training curricula. It's a strategic means of ensuring that this gender mainstreaming is sustainable if it is institutionalized. And also, I'm happy to say that the Armed Forces of Nigeria is also a strong partner with UN Women, and one of the things we are also trying to do is to mentor women. We did a gender audit of the Armed Forces, which will be launched soon. And findings from that audit clearly indicate that there is low representation of women in strategic and decision-making positions in the Armed Forces. Of course, the reason why we have low representation of women is not just limited to institutional gaps, but broadly in the society. We live in a patriarchal society where joining the military profession is seen as a profession exclusively reserved for the men. So if a young girl has an ambition of becoming a military officer, she's discouraged by her parents, she's discouraged by her community. And we need to start reorientating the public to get them to realize that men and women can actually be actively engaged in the armed forces. So we are not limiting this challenge to the security institution, but to the public. We need to start changing the mindset that, look, if you do not have women in the security forces, then there will be serious challenges. Why? Because the security institutions we have are responsive to a society that is made up of men and women. In fact, we have about 49% population women. And if you have women fully represented in the armed forces, the cases of sexual and gender-based violence, especially in conflict settings, is minimized. We set up what we call a Miss Observers team in the Northeast, and we discovered that girls and women that are subjected to sexual and gender-based violence would rather keep quiet than to approach a male police officer. Why? Because of the culture of silence. They are not comfortable to report such cases to a male officer. But when we established the Miss Observers team, which is made up of strictly female police officers, female civil defense officers, and female community leaders, we saw increased number of women and girls reporting such cases, and actions are taken, especially to deal with the perpetrators. That clearly shows that if we have more women representation in this security institution, we will have more response to both men and women. So I call on stakeholders here in presence to encourage our young girls and women to join the military profession. And I'm happy to say UN Women is also going to support a mentoring program for targeted security institutions, which is starting this year. And I'm happy the Armed Forces is one of the beneficiaries. The Nigerian Police Force is another beneficiary, and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps is another beneficiary. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, we strongly believe that gender equality is possible, gender mainstreaming is strategic, and we all have to collectively work to ensure that there is gender balance in the security sector. The Armed Forces have laid a solid foundation. They have demonstrated commitment. What we need to do is to give them maximum support so that the ultimate goal that we have will be fully achieved. I believe it's possible, and I believe the right step is taking place today. So I congratulate the Armed Forces for convening this conference and the launch of their maiden gender magazine. It's important to give visibility to the gender mainstreaming work we are doing. Other countries need to learn. I was in some countries, like in the West African countries, who have invited me to share success stories from Nigeria. Mali was here in Nigeria to learn from Nigeria. So we have quite a lot of good practices that we need to showcase. And through the gender magazine, I think we need to publish and sensitize people that there are good practices, there are lessons learned that people can learn from Nigeria and others can replicate, especially other security institutions. On this note, I want to once again congratulate the Armed Forces of Nigeria for this successful conference, and I wish us all a fruitful deliberation.
The Chief of Defense Staff, other service chiefs, the President of the POA, or the Chairman of the POA, so that I don't create trouble for the Chief of Defense Staff, and distinguished Presidents and Chairmen of the various women associations in the military, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, I'm most delighted to be part of this auspicious occasion, the opening ceremony of the Gender Mainstreaming Conference 2023, organized by the Defense Headquarters. I wish to once more welcome Her Excellency, the wife of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, and other esteemed guests to this occasion. This year's Gender Mainstreaming Conference, which has as its theme building capacity through gender mainstreaming to meet security challenges, is apt and timely. Taking into consideration the impact of gender mainstreaming on training, deployment, and operational efficiency of military personnel. It is pertinent to reiterate that the present administration is ever ready for initiatives such as this, to reposition the armed forces of Nigeria to better tackle the security challenges facing the nation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad about the deliberate effort of the current leadership of the Armed Forces of Nigeria in adopting commendable gender mainstreaming policies in its military operations. It is on record that the Nigerian Armed Forces have surpassed the recommended benchmark in place by the United Nations regarding female participation in peacekeeping operations. This development has continued to improve the operational efficiency of our troops in various theaters of operation, both within and outside the country. It is also instructive that the effort by the Armed Forces of Nigeria are in line with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, which recognizes the important role of women in prevention and resolution of conflicts, peace negotiation, peacekeeping, as well as humanitarian response in post-conflict reconstruction. Consequently, it calls for equal participation and full involvement of women in all efforts in the maintenance and promotion of peace and security. The resolution further urges countries to develop their own action plans to identify, evaluate, and control efforts to achieve the objective of peace and security through effective gender policies and initiatives, which our armed forces have taken to the challenge. The outcome of those policies and initiatives are the increased roles, perspectives, and opportunities afforded women in Nigerian armed forces. It is in this regard that I wish to reiterate before this gathering our commitment to bridging gender gaps, and the attainment of parity at all levels by addressing barriers to recruitment, retention, and career progression for females in the Ministry of Defense and its various departments and agencies, including the armed forces. Consequently, let me assure that the Ministry of Defense, under my supervision, will continue to place emphasis on the evolution of gender mainstreaming towards achieving peace and security of our dear nation. Once again, I wish to most sincerely appreciate the First Lady for gracing this occasion as the special guest of honor. Her Excellency's commitment to achieving gender equality and her effort towards eliminating societal ills against women are profound. On behalf of the Ministry of Defense and the Armed Forces of Nigeria, I wish to sincerely thank you for being part of this occasion. In conclusion, I would like to also use this opportunity to thank the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for his unwavering and continued support to the armed forces towards conducting the constitutional role of safeguarding the nation's territorial integrity. On this note, I wish all participants and stakeholders fruitful deliberations and interaction in the course of this conference. Thank you and God bless.
It is now time to have the address by the special guest of honor. To do this, I want to most respectfully request the Chief of Defense Staff, who is also the Chief Host of this occasion, to kindly invite the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu, heavily represented here by the right of the Vice President, Her Excellency Hajiya Maria Kashim Shettima, to present her address.
I'm representing our dear mother, who is unavoidably absent. Reading her remarks. I am honored to be invited to this auspicious event, the Defense Headquarters one-day Gender Mainstreaming Conference, with the theme Building Capacity Through Gender Mainstreaming to Meet Security Challenges. This theme is apt as it is about shaping a safer, better, and more equitable world for all. I commend the leadership of the Armed Forces of Nigeria for accepting the gender mainstreaming concept in line with the global best practice and the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. Not only have you accepted the concept, this conference has been designed to deepen the concept among the armed forces, encourage gender inclusivity and the services, and retool the capacity of personnel to enhance their performance and the maintenance of peace and security in the defense of Nigeria. I believe this is a first of its kind, and I thank you. In our rapid changing global landscape, security challenges has become increasingly complex and multifaceted. From terrorism, cyber threats, to climate change and health crises. The security of nations and individuals is constantly under scrutiny. Addressing these challenges effectively requires innovative and comprehensive approaches, and gender mainstreaming stands as a powerful tool in our arsenal. Gender mainstreaming is now much more than rhetoric and a policy agenda. It is a fundamental shift in the way we perceive and address security challenges. It recognizes that security encompasses not only military strength, but also the protection of human rights, economic stability, social and environmental sustainability. In practical terms, what can we do to advance gender mainstreaming in our security efforts? We can start by ensuring that gender perspectives are integrated into security policies and strategies, encouraging more women to join and progress within the forces. We must promote women's participation and leadership in security institutions, peace negotiations, conflict resolution efforts, as women are nurturers, and bringing a more reconciliatory perspective into negotiations. Education and training programs should emphasize gender sensitivity and awareness amongst security personnel. Women should not be discriminated against for getting married or bearing children. We can work towards eliminating gender-based violence within security forces and ensuring proper mechanism for reporting and addressing such incidents. Women in the forces should be able to report incidents without fear of victimization. Collaborations among governments, civil society organizations, and international bodies is essential to share best practices and hold one another accountable for progress. Through the Renewed Hope Initiative project, we have strengthened women empowerment by facilitating access to training and education. This has been in form of ICT training in partnership with the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, and scholarship grants for higher education. Additionally, we have equipped the women with laptops and grants to support their educational and professional pursuits. This is because we believe that when you empower a woman, you empower a community and inevitably a nation. We therefore hope that the leadership within the armed forces will extend this dialogue beyond the confinement of this conference and empower women in their ranks. Laws need to be revised to be more equitable towards women, such that women are encouraged to join the armed forces and make necessary progress. In conclusion, the journey to build capacity through gender mainstreaming to meet security challenges is a collective one. It calls for a shared commitment to equality, justice, and inclusiveness. By embracing gender mainstreaming as a cornerstone of our security efforts, we can build a safer and more prosperous world for current and future generations. Let us commit ourselves to this vital task, working hand in hand to address security challenges and create a future where all members of the society can strive. I thank you all for listening. God bless the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Signed, Her Excellency, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you all for your time. On behalf of the wife of the President, Her Excellency, who is also the special guest of honor of this important conference, I would like to launch this magazine for the benefit of all across, since Nigeria is a signatory to the Resolution 135 of the United Nations. So for the benefit of all, I launched this magazine on behalf of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And congratulations to each and every one of us. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much. Special guest of honor has launched the magazine. Now it is time to present it to the public. So please, I request that every member of the high table takes a copy. Okay. That is the public presentation of the book for us to submit. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. A resounding round of applause for them.
So we need a quick system that can mediate for the issues we have, like doctors and nurses who are strike, device usage with usage by the rural communities and like communities. We are able to keep values such as real-time diagnosis, sequencing can discuss with AI. AI gives you medical recommendation and prediction of prediction, and it's also a platform that can connect to the easiest, the nearest doctor, such that if I want to access quality health care and the hospital is not placed by the system can recommend to you what you should do, the drugs you take, and then also give you the closest pharmacies that are available. So at this point, you are working with pharmaceutical companies as well as doctors, as well as health institutions to bring this to pass. This is a prototype at the moment. This is how it works. It's a simple demo. It was done here in jail. So and as it's working like this, it's streaming it straight to the Bluetooth, to the mobile application. The mobile application, it works like ChatGPT, but it's medically. What it does here is this box. It's actually a danger group that we especially say that if anybody very alert, give us an alert, send a mail or whatever it is.
And we also found a solution that could be just groups if they need to be able to carry out surveillance by just sending a simple SMS that says HQ. It will then send the alarm showing us where the handset is, and as you can see, the phone is now calling back, so I can answer and I can listen to the conversation that's taking place in the area without it. So we're at the forefront of our development, looking to see how we can preserve
without anybody productive, so you can see it on your screen when the phone is free and when it has been empty at this level. So they are trying to work at the replica, yes, to know the location and know when it has gone. Like this is our layout. So we are going to ascribe to the needs of this people. So to let you know the point and then the place is located. So when it's real, automatically just exposing it, you see it on your dashboard and they move with it. So have them to plan their routes. They must not wait until the time is. So they are
I can get access because I'm always home.
yeah, and also
we also have a smart meter there. So you can monitor your routes. Now, this is 0 watts, 0 kilowatts. So now if you put the bulb, now we'll be showing you the voltage that is consuming from the bulb. It's not only the bulb, all the appliances like fridge, yes, all the electrical appliances.
The idea is just that normal meter doesn't actually show
stream online.
It just tells you that you are consuming this amount of this. Or this one tells you this is the amount of power that you are consuming at the current time, this amount of load you are using at the current time. So when they say consume 10 minutes, you actually know that you consume 10 minutes because you are able to see it on the dashboard.
This has been sent to Goa.
Very well. So he didn't buy from you.
Very nice. Very good.
Very nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm here to present the lead paper this morning on the gender policy of the Armed Forces of Nigeria and its impact on gender mainstreaming in the services. It's my great honor and privilege to be making this presentation this morning, because for me it's a culmination of many years of work that we've been doing, with the armed forces in this particular area of, gender responsiveness in the armed forces. I'd like to start by, making some very obvious statements which many of the speakers here today have mentioned, that societies worldwide are increasingly recognizing the need for gender equality because it is a vehicle for, among many others, harnessing all human resources towards solving the complex problems of contemporary times. If you look at our society today, even with a casual look, if you just look at the news, you know that the problems that leaders have to solve today it's a myriad of problems. And they're complex. Not only are they complex, they're happening very quickly and all at the same time. So it's become, if you look at, what different studies show, that there's actually a need for newer forms of thinking and newer forms of leadership to deal with the problems of our time, perhaps more than we've ever had in history before. So this is certainly a time in which you need to harness all of your human resources, towards looking for solutions. And so the point we're making here is that you cannot continue to rely on the same way you've been doing things. And the same way has been to fall, default mode is to look for men. But we're saying that societies worldwide are increasingly coming to recognize that in a society you have to use everybody. We've heard about, the need for us to look, when we're institutions and organs of government, we should resemble the societies in which we are operating. So there's that need to harness all human resources. There's also the need to promote inclusivity, which ties to the last point I just made. If you are serving a society, the armed forces, for example, if you go, into your operational areas, the society you're serving, you should resemble them. If there are men and women there, then the force that comes to serve them must be men and women. The police must look like them, they must be men and women. Whoever you are, you must look like your society. So there's need for inclusivity to include everybody in the society. And of course, for ensuring human rights, that the human right of everyone is upheld. Every human being, every created human being it's a human right for them to also be able to contribute, to the development of society. Now, armed forces, in our societies, armed forces are critical institutions that are increasingly required to foster this inclusivity by addressing historical gender inequalities. And the armed forces of Nigeria certainly are not an exception. Nigeria adheres to both national and international regional instruments, and in there you can also say regional instruments as well, that provide the rationale for standards for addressing gender-based barriers within the armed forces. Some of these instruments, certainly not all of them, are the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which we call CEDAW, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, the United Nations Security Resolution, Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security, and all the other related resolutions which together have come to form the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. Nigeria is a signatory to all of these instruments, and of course there are so many other national and regional instruments which Nigeria adheres to. And these instruments form, the basis for some of this discussion that we're having. It is in this line also that the gender policy of the armed forces, the adoption of the gender policy of the armed forces of Nigeria shows concrete evidence of the commitment, Nigeria's commitment, and particularly that of the armed forces, to the implementation of these instruments, whether global, continental, regional, or national, that aim to promote gender mainstreaming and women empowerment. I like to show the policy wherever I go because people like to deny that we have a policy. It's here, it's real. I still go into some meetings where people tell me that there's no defense policy in Nigeria. So we need to show people all the time it's real, it's not just a picture. So, like I said, the gender policy shows this commitment. On the national front, of course, there's a national gender policy, which serves as a foundational document outlining the government's commitment to gender equality across all sectors, including the military. Understanding the impact of a gender policy on mainstreaming of gender in the armed forces entails a comprehensive examination of cultural, historical, and institutional factors. The dynamism and commitment that the policy encapsulates involves reevaluating the recruitment processes and career advancement opportunities, as well as reforming the overall organizational culture of the armed forces in line with extant instruments that I've been talking about, to which Nigeria subscribes. It is against this background that I present the aim of this presentation, which is to discuss the gender policy of the armed forces of Nigeria and its impact on gender mainstreaming in the services, with a view to making some recommendations. To do this, we propose this outline. We'll have, look at a few definitions, conceptual definitions of relevant terms, some mechanisms and tools for gender mainstreaming, overview of the gender policy of the armed forces of Nigeria, highlights of, the gender audit reports, because it's related to, the policy, challenges of gender mainstreaming, and conclude and give, some recommendations. So I'll just rush through a few definitions. It may look obvious, but it's necessary for us to look at what gender is, because people easily assume that when you say gender, you're talking about sex, whether you are male or female. But when we use gender, it is in a deeper context. It has evolved to revert to socially constructed norms in relation to roles and responsibilities for male and female in a society. It's a social construct that translates to opportunities and means through which power and resources are allocated between men, women, men, girls, and boys in a given context. So if, for example, I'm talking about, if I'm doing, I'm talking in terms of gender, if I'm giving a report of this meeting today, for example, and I talk about the participation in this meeting, I would have to say that there were so many men, there were so many women, there were so many boys, there were so many girls. And it's important for me to take that into consideration when I'm even planning for the conference, because I will have to look at, what do I need to prepare that is peculiar maybe to men, that will be gathered in this place. Are there peculiarities that women have that I would have to deal with when I'm preparing for this meeting? So it's important for us to be able to look at the resources that are being allocated in any given time, in any given context, in terms of the societal breakdown. Whether there are boys and girls, there are children. Perhaps this meeting was going to involve children. Will children be able to understand what we're saying? In the plan, we would say, okay, no, they can't understand. So maybe we need to prepare a space for the children. That's a gender consideration. So when we're talking gender, in the context of allocating resources, power, and so on, responsibilities, we must break it down into who, men and women, boys and girls, like I said, within a given context. So this is the context in which we're looking at gender, and it's very important for us to realize this ab initio. So having done that, what is gender mainstreaming then? It is not only a concept, it is also a strategy that is used to achieve gender equality by assessing the implications for women, men, girls, and boys in any planned action, like with the example I just gave you. And this, strategy was first introduced at the 1985 Nairobi World Conference on Women. Gender mainstreaming ensures that concerns and experiences of all are considered in design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies and programs in all political, economic, and social spheres. So this is what gender mainstreaming is. Like I said, it's a concept, and if we're talking about the concept, I could say much more, but it's also a strategy. And I'd like us to just focus on it as a strategy for the purpose of this presentation. Now, when I was talking about gender mainstreaming, you heard me talk about gender equality. What then is gender equality in the context of gender mainstreaming? Gender equality talks about the absence of discrimination, and of course, you can see from this slide that it's a major goal for the Sustainable Development Goals. It's goal number 5. That's why I put that. It's from the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 5 is about gender equality. So what is gender equality? It's the absence of discrimination on the basis of sex in the allocation of resources, benefits, or access to services. Remember with mainstreaming, I said when you're planning, you have to take into consideration, how whatever you're planning affects, these different sectors of society. So you don't discriminate. So when we're talking about gender equality, this is what we're talking about. It's the absence of discrimination on the basis of sex in the allocation of resources, benefits, or access to services. It also looks at the differences in behavior, aspirations, and needs of boys, girls, women, and men, and considers them, values them, and favors them equally. Just because we are different, men are different, women are different, does not mean therefore that you discountenance one in favor of the other. All of these differences have to be favored equally, because the differences also complement in the way in which they deliver on national development in society. So when we talk equality, it is good also to talk about the concept of equity, because it explains, it gives you some nuanced understanding of equality. Equality, like we said, is giving each person or group of people the same resources and opportunities. There should be a routine and continuous way of generating data in terms related to the implementation strategy, so that when a time for review comes, there is ready data for you to work with. I thank you for your attention.
So we'll go straight into the plenary. We'll take the other presentations. Thereafter, we'll invite the moderator, the lead speaker, and other presenters to the high table here for the interactive sessions. Permit me to welcome Professor F.M.T. Tio, President, International Academy of Gender and Peace, Abuja, to make the presentation on enhancing gender mainstreaming to promote peace and security in Nigeria. Please let's welcome Professor Tio with a round of applause.
My presentation is on enhancing gender mainstreaming to promote peace and security in Nigeria. I've given the paper to the organizers of this conference, and I'm certain that they will be able to give it to all the participants at the end of the day. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. But I'm very happy also that the lead presenter, Madam Sanda, has done so well to reverse most of the things and the concepts that would have required a PowerPoint presentation. For instance, she's been able to conceptualize gender, she's been able to conceptualize gender mainstreaming, gender analysis, gender audit, and the rest of that. And so, when the MC said 15 minutes, I know that Madam Sanda has done most of our work, and so building on it, it becomes very simple, even if it says 5 minutes. But I'm happy that we have 15 minutes. When we talk about gender mainstreaming, peace and security, what readily comes to mind is the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. Right from the morning, early, we've been talking about Resolution 1325, and up till now, of course, that is the cornerstone of this entire conference. It helps us to understand
the inclusivity of women in the operations of peace and all issues that surround national security. That's when we talk about 1325. And the United Nations Security Council in the year 2000 recognized that it was essential to pass that resolution so that women will also be integrated into operations that have to deal with peace, so that women will also be involved in issues that have to do with national security and the rest of it. And so we also say the persistent failure to adequately finance the women peace and security agenda must be addressed. Government and all institutions must ensure that enough resources are also allocated to women. There was a time I said it's not just enough to say that we have a Ministry of Women's Affairs. For me, I was saying we should even make it a Ministry of Gender Affairs. It would have been okay. Because if it is a Ministry of Gender Affairs, it means that tomorrow a man could also be the head of that ministry. But when you are comfortable that you have a Ministry of Women Affairs, most times government feels that they have already given you your share. And so much is you are forgotten in too many other areas of society. It's not enough. It's not enough. It should be Ministry of Gender Affairs. Let a man also be the head of that ministry, so that you can also be in other ministries and in other parastatals and in other agencies, than to have a peanut and think that you have been given enough. Don't accept it any longer. Lobby with intensity. And I'm recommending also that we can have a Gender and Social Equities Commission, just like you have the EFCC, so that every person will be held accountable. Every government official will be held accountable. If it is in school where we need to have enrollment, then if a vice chancellor of a university has not properly mainstreamed gender in his enrollment process, he can be held accountable. If the principal of a secondary school has not done that, he can be held accountable. So we also need a Gender and Social Equities Commission. And that commission should be under the presidency so that it will have powers to effectively superintend over all institutions of government like the EFCC does. We must lobby with intensity to ensure that they are corrected, they are amended, so that we can have sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, I leave you with these few words. Thank you so
much. Gender inclusive technology development in the armed forces of Nigeria. And to deliver this is someone I have great respect for, my leader, my namesake, Major General E.A. Ndagi, DG Defense and Research Development Bureau. Thank you so much, sir. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
I'm thanking the organizers of this conference for inviting me to say a few words on a very important and interesting topic: gender inclusive technology development in the armed forces of Nigeria. I consider this topic quite significant considering the critical role of technology as a key enabler to addressing threats in the global security environment. However, I have taken the liberty to add a rider, an appraiser, to put the topic in better perspective for this discourse. Essentially, gender inclusiveness is a fundamental principle that currently draws inspiration from the UN Security Council Resolution 1335 on women, peace and security. This is closely reinforced by Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, which prescribes gender equality as a mandatory requirement in all modern-day societies, including the military. Historically, the military has been largely male-dominated, with limited opportunities for women to actively participate. Nonetheless, in recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the need for gender inclusivity in various sectors, and the armed forces is no exception. In Nigeria, the National Gender Policy 2021-2026 is anchored within the framework of the Nigerian Constitution, which guarantees equality and freedom from discrimination of the Nigerian citizenry. It is also consistent with the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, as well as other national policies and regional resolutions on gender mainstreaming. More instructively, it forms the basis of the gender policy for the armed forces of Nigeria. The policy focuses on 5 specific objectives, as earlier mentioned by the lead paper presenter, which are to formalize the commitment to gender mainstreaming, strengthen capacities and capabilities of gender mainstreaming, integrating gender mainstreaming in training, planning, budgeting, and operations, as well as other military engagements. Others include an increase in women's participation in decision-making processes at all levels. Ultimately, the policy can also be employed to invest in research and development in order to create innovative solutions that promote inclusiveness in military technologies. In conclusion, gender-inclusive technology development is not only a matter of gender equality, but also a strategic imperative for maximizing the capabilities of the armed forces. By actively involving women in technology development, we can bridge the gender gap and foster a more inclusive work environment. It is also a critical aspect for building a modern and effective military that can optimize efficiency by promoting diversity and equality, improving recruitment and retention rates, and enhancing safety and well-being. The Armed Forces of Nigeria will continue to draw inspiration from the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 framework, which supports women's equal participation and representation in all peace and security efforts, as well as the 35% affirmative action for women representation in all public service sectors prescribed in the National Gender Policy. On this note, I thank you all for your attention and God bless.
We are gradually coming to the end of this auspicious occasion. We'll take the last presentation for the day, then we'll have the interactive session.
My lecture is the third lecture, and I'm to speak on the way we can promote access to digital technology for the female personnel in the armed forces. In the mid-20th century, a German mathematician known as Gottfried Leibniz proposed a binary computing system for processing information, which is a sequence of zeros and ones, known as bits. His innovation inspired numerical codes such as the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, the ASCII, which made transmission of information between computers very possible. The ASCII code is a combination of zeros and ones. For instance, the word blue in ASCII code can be transmitted as a combination of several zeros and ones, which is a digitized information recorded in binary code, which is digits of zeros and ones. This coding system propelled the development in digital technology, which today amply demonstrates the permeation of ICT into almost all aspects of human endeavor. Some key aspects that propel digital technology are, as we commonly know, computers, software, internet, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality. Computers are the core of digital technology. They process data through digital logic circuits and are used for tasks like data processing, calculations, and other software applications, including even financial transactions as we do today. Digital technology has revolutionized command and control systems, enabling military commanders to have real-time situational awareness and better decision-making capabilities. Advanced application softwares and data analytic tools and communication systems presently help military commanders to effectively coordinate operations. Cyber warfare. The rise of digital technology has also given rise to cyber warfare. Militaries worldwide have developed cyber capabilities to defend defend against cyber threats, and in some cases, conduct offensive cyber operations. Cyber security is now a critical aspect of military planning and operations. Unmanned systems. The military extensively uses unmanned systems like drones and autonomous vehicles. These technologies are equipped with advanced sensors and communication systems, allowing for reconnaissance, surveillance, and even combat operations without putting human lives at risk. Gender stereotypes and biases may limit opportunities for female personnel in the military. The wrong perception in some quarters that the study of science and technology is a male-dominated environment could discourage some female personnel from pursuing careers in these fields. Difficulty in recruitment and retention. The ability to attract and retain female talents in technology-related roles in the military can be difficult due to the wrong perception that military service is not suitable for women due to concerns in balancing family building and military careers. Next is the peculiar military environment. Some female personnel may encounter challenging working environment due to some peculiar military customs and rigid traditions. This may discourage some female personnel from pursuing roles in digital technology or impede their professional career. Having highlighted the above, it is recommended that the armed forces could consider routinely conducting gender sensitization and diversity training programs to promote conducive and more inclusive work environment for the female personnel. Establish mentorship and support programs for female personnel, offering guidance and career development opportunities. Provide, where applicable, support for female personnel to balance family building and career responsibilities. And lastly, ensure equal access to digital technology training, resources and facilities for all personnel. Thank you for your rapt attention. My references are shown also.
We are happy as a ministry and that women issues of gender are being mainstreamed in the armed forces. Regarding the issue raised the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs changing into gender ministries and all that, I want to say that Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, our services are not limited to women. We have a desk, social work services where we handle issues of men and women. We have men being abused by their wives, so we want to handle such issues. And I want to say that women and issues of gender are all encompassing. And the Ministry of Women Affairs, we are not focusing only on women. If you discover we have a program we call He4She, and so many of our He4She we have been corrected. And the Honorable Minister is doing everything possible to ensure that she carries along both men and women. So please, be rest assured that men are fully covered. It's not just only women. Thank you very much.
My question goes to first speaker, which is Ms. Sandra. She elaborates more about gender analysis, gender advocacy, gender impact and assessment. But I need to highlight more about gender stereotype, which is gender stereotype. Thank you.
I also particularly appreciate Professor Tio for making it more explicit in the area of gender. Because many people don't know that gender is for both male and female. And making it more explicit now makes us to know that enlarging our scope as women is what gives us more opportunity to enter into all the sectors. Because if you say Ministry of Women Affairs, we are just being limited. But making it more explicit now make us now know that it's important that gender enter into all sectors and give us more wider coverage. So giving us opportunity to expand in our scope. I want to appreciate you so much, sir. May God bless you.
Since time immemorial, somehow it is women that are playing the catch-up game in the whole wide world. In the 17th century, T.R. Malthus, when he was propounding his theory of population and economic growth, he had women in mind. The more women we put into the industries, the more we will have economic growth. Men were predominant there. So it has always been with the consciousness of women. So we have the consciousness of women in making sure that in proposing this conference, we got it right. The role of women in society and in the armed forces cannot be overemphasized. We can't downplay their roles. They play major roles. I go back in history again. Karl von Clausewitz, a renowned Prussian general, the author of On War, one of the foremost books on war that is studied today since the 17th century. He died before producing his book. Before his book was printed, it was his wife that made sure that book was published. I'm saying this with a view to also recognizing the place that our officers' wives associations play in making sure that the commanders, their husbands, successfully discharge their operational roles. So let's factor all this in it so that we understand the place of women in the overall gender issues. I have no argument with the issue of putting it as Ministry of Gender. I think it is better for everybody.
Now, it is with the greatest respect that I invite the President of the Defense and Police Officers' Wives Association, our mother, Mrs. Ogoro C.G. Musa, to make presentations to our esteemed panelists. Please, ma'am, may we invite our upstairs with a round of applause. First, a presentation to Professor F.M.T. Tio, President, International Academy for Gender and Peace, Abuja. Thank you so much, ma'am. Next is Major General E.A. Ndagi. Thank you so much, sir. DGDRDB. Now, our own Air Vice Marshal N.V. Agoyi. Thank you, sir. Finally, our moderator is Abiola Sanusi.